Good morning from Tokyo's Haneda Airport. My last video was of my flight over to Japan, so this is basically just a quick recap of my return flight back to Australia. Like last time, I was joined on this flight by my friends, the Cattle Class couple. We arrived at Terminal 3 and made our way down to the far end for the Qantas check-in. It was a little bit confusing because it looked like everyone was lining up to check in, but it turns out you had to use one of the self-serve kiosks at the side and then line up for bag drop only. A few people seemed to be caught out by this and had to leave and rejoin the queue. There were only a handful of kiosks, which slowed down the process as well. My mate once again provided some insightful commentary about today's Haneda experience compared to Singapore's first class at Changi.
Going for the days of having a private entrance to no entry.
Once airside, there was no lounge access for us. So instead, we made a beeline straight to 7-Eleven to use up our remaining balance on our IC cards. Japan has these sandwiches which are essentially sweetened whipped cream in bread. It's so simple but oh so satisfying, and I just had to have one final sandwich before leaving. Then we made the trek all the way to the opposite end of the terminal to our gate where our plane was waiting for us. This flight was operated by an A330-300, just like the one that brought us over to Tokyo. Compared to the 200 series variant, the 300 is slightly longer and features a better economy class seat from Qantas, but still no premium economy like on the 787 or A380s. Boarding was by rows, and given we were sitting further forward this time, we had to wait a bit before we could get on. I got some more commentary from my mates,
Today's episode of Going Back to Australia.
and a hopeful wish for an upgrade.
Would you like to sit in the front?
We boarded through the second door, which saved us from having to walk past business class, and instead we were straight into the economy section, laid out in a 242 configuration. I made my way to my first seat, 41A, and was kindly told to hurry up.
Come on, mate.
I went through the seat in the last video, but in case you haven't seen it, here's a quick recap of the main features and amenities. I want to stress again, I really love this footrest net, and I hope more airlines will install this type of design. Leg and knee room was okay, but my table had definitely seen better days. My seat had also seen better days. The quote-unquote adjustable headrest was useless, and my seat back would also recline without pressing the button and then get stuck back there too. On the plus side, there was a power point and individual overhead air vents as well. Bonus fun fact for today's video is that I actually used to play soccer with this guy. In fact, we tried making a band as well, but I was a bit hopeless. Anyway, we pushed back next to an Air France plane, which is not something I get to see that often, and we had a long taxi out to our runway. Like some other courteous flyers I've seen online, I also like to sit in the last row, if it's a recliner type seat. Reason being, you can recline the whole flight and not have to worry about intruding into someone else's personal space, and you don't have to put your seat back upright for the meal services. On a long haul aircraft, you would hope that the last row isn't backed right up against the wall or limited with recline, but it seemed like the Qantas seat was perfectly fine. I swapped seats with my mate and I went to the middle section to seat 41D. The IFE was the same as the way over, meaning plenty of content but some lag when loading the menus. Another handy feature of the IFE was the fact it had our food menu for the flight, along with snack and drink options as well. The crew handed out bottles of water and we started the breakfast service shortly afterwards. There was a choice of main meal, either an omelette with bacon, hash browns and beans, or teriyaki tofu with veggies and rice. I'm really not a fan of eggs on a plane, so I went for the tofu, much to the amusement of everyone around me, including the crew member serving me. It came served on a tray with pastry, yogurt and a choice of drink. I also asked for a sparkling water or soda water, but was given a can of lemonade instead. The tofu was really good, and the rice was infinitely better than the mushy slop I got on the way over to Japan from Brisbane. The toilet was exactly as you'd expect, nothing fancy here, and it was in an acceptable condition when I visited. One annoying thing about sitting in this last row was the fact I had people standing around and queuing next to me for the toilets. With some earplugs and an eye mask, I did manage to kinda doze off a little bit here and there, but I wouldn't really call it a proper nap or sleep. I gave up after a while and had some snacks instead. It started with one brownie, and followed with literally anything they had on offer, including more brownies. A couple of hours out from Sydney, the cabin lights were turned on in preparation for the second meal service. For this one, I went for the braised beef with mash and veggies, which came with a little side salad and bread. It looked as good as you'd expect for an economy class meal, and it tasted fine, but the beef was really fatty and had huge chunks of white fatty bits. Dessert was an ice cream, followed by a Japanese Kit Kat, but just a normal flavour, nothing funky. As we started to descend and get ready to land, one of the toilets broke and started making this rather unpleasant, ear-piercing whistling sound. It continued for ages until it finally stopped closer to landing. So how was my return flight from Japan in Qantas Economy? Well, the seat was the same as the way over, but this time without the luxury of any extra space or a poor man's business class bed. Like I said in my previous video, the seat is actually pretty good for an economy class seat, apart from the wear and tear. I'll say it one last time, that footnet is a great touch, and I think more airlines should look into it. I just wish Qantas would offer a premium economy on this route, to offer a middle ground for those passengers who would pay a little bit more for some extra space and comfort. Both my flights to and from Japan were day flights, which also made it much more manageable overall. I'd do it again if I had to, but I'd probably try premium economy on JAL or ANA instead.